Yo, I'm HeyWoah, a high-energy streamer. This video is brought to you by no one because that's who asked for my opinion. First, some background. I played Diablo 1 when it came out, loved the gothic horror hack and slash, reminded me of Ultima 7 except with atmosphere. Plus Hellfire X back, even though that was Sierra. I typed my friend's phone number in-game, which physically called his house. He signed into his AOL browser, opened Diablo, and clicked answer after hearing the phone ring in real life, and we played a video game across space and time. Later, his mom tried to call someone and it broke our connection and she got an earful of static. In other words, I'm old. Played Diablo 2 off and on for 20 years, put hundreds of hours into D2R, played vanilla private servers instead of retail for 10 years, thoroughly enjoyed Classic. We opened the gates, made Grand Marshals, speedran Nax. I have EQMU installed on my new computer. I make Warhammer Age of Sigmar videos and I don't touch grass, without consent. I'm telling you this so that you understand the perspective through which you can take this review. Old guy yells at cloud. Also, I have less than 2 years to live. Week 1 of Diablo 4 is over. I played a lot despite having a job, so I'm only level 90. I chose Druid because I like Druid in Diablo 2, even though it's probably the worst class. That being said, the worst class feels pretty good once you get Enigma and 163 FCR. Anyway, we'll do this in order. Let's start with visuals. Igor Sid has been a favorite artist of mine for Magic the Gathering and Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which is what most of my content is about. And I was thrilled when Blizzard hired him to make them some fucking Renaissance paintings for Diablo 4. If they could capture half of this look and feel for in-game art, level, characters, details, I would be a happy man. They did, and so I'm a happy man. Diablo 3 looked cartoony and bad. Fixing the visuals was a great step forward for the IP. A+ work. Loading up the game, I noticed no single-player offline mode, which means my game that I bought is always at the mercy of Blizzard servers and has no mod support. But that kind of thing is normal nowadays, because the bad guys won. The game is $70, which is considerably cheaper than Diablo 2 was when it came out if you adjust for inflation. 70 today is 40 in 2000. But that number, still feels bad, I guess. Also, there's an in-game shop, but don't worry, it's only cosmetics, and they honestly look worse than the stuff you get from playing the game normally. So you can safely ignore it. Also, you can play the seasonal content without buying the battle pass. D4's various shops and monetization are, so far, avoiding any actual benefits, and only the loosest wallets will be tempted to open, beyond buying the base game. Good, I guess. This is what counts as good now. They will absolutely charge for stash tabs in the future, though. Sorry, Asmin. Character creator is super basic. Where are the sliders? Also, how can modern games look so amazing? And yet, custom character beards are always so fake and bad. Every content creator ad read for D4 I watched made sure to specifically mention that your custom character was in all the in-game cutscenes. And I remember Mass Effect doing that 16 years ago, so I have no idea why that is something to brag about, but alright. Go off. Before anyone clicks away, the game is very fun. They took the gameplay of Diablo 3, except better, and then put Diablo 2 visuals on top, except better. Now, D3 sucked hard. But most of that wasn't necessarily from the gameplay itself, which was arcade mode fun. It just scaled beyond any cosmic comprehension, and the itemization was terrible. No talent trees. No rune words. Real money auction house. And the endgame was only Rifts, and Rifts fucking blew. They did keep too much bad Diablo 3 DNA in D4 in my opinion. I was hoping for another big divergence from the previous title, like how different D3 was from D2, but not this time. What makes this particularly frustrating to me is that you already went through the huge problems D3 had, and over 10 years you worked on it. Supposedly the game is good now, people tell me. I don't know, I dropped that shit before Reaper's Souls. And then again about a month after Reaper's Souls. You already know Rifts was a dogshit endgame that essentially killed D3, and so what are we doing in D4? Nightmare Dungeons. All the quality of life changes you grudgingly added to D3, it's like you got amnesia and they're all missing again at the start of D4. Maybe I shouldn't expect this at my age, but I feel like you learn from the previous game's full life cycle of solutions and pick up where you left off for the sequel. Stand on the shoulders of giants, right? Not Blizzard. I'll complain about those later, and there are a lot of them, but the game is so goddamn fun that I can't stay mad at it. I also can't stop playing it, so fine, you bastards, it's good, go get it if you like this type of game. Play it with the boys if you have friends, I certainly don't, but I'm told the multiplayer is much improved from previous titles. The story is also much improved, if you give a shit. I think most people spam left click past all dialogue and in-game cutscenes, but if you don't, you will be pleasantly surprised. Especially if you're used to Blizzard writing, which in the modern era, let's be honest, has been spectacularly incompetent. Not so here. There are some fun twists and turns, legitimately interesting characters, great voice acting. Like, listen to my man Lorax.
A war between angels and demons. But Lilith serves neither side. She has her own plans for us.
Jesus. His voice is buttered toast dipped in hot chocolate. It's still like hella campy, right? And obvious. Lots of pulp. But it's fun in a certain mood. Nice and depressing, forsaken, dark world. Lots of betrayal and senseless violence. Everything's a prophecy. No plot points are a surprise, but in a comfy sort of way. After the last cinematic, which was totally sweet by the way, the wheels definitely fall off and plot points just kind of rapid fire happen. Felt rushed, anticlimactic, and I was left watching the credits a bit confused and more than a bit disappointed, as Lorath drifted away on his invisible horse. There you go, right up onto nothing. There you go.
Find her. Once you're together, meet me at dawn.
Damn, I haven't played Skyrim in years. And we're off. This moving scene. Story B, last part D+, so we'll say C+. Again, big improvement on D3 and way better than I was prepared for. This is the company that wrote The Jailer, alright? C+ is a fantastic win for them. Gameplay look and feel is best in class. The controls and response feel very nice. Animations and skills have excellent timing, feel impactful. Great sound, great music. The dash key works instantly and even slightly interrupts certain actions. That's a proper dodge mechanic. Sluggish dodge controls can make a whole game feel terrible, and D4 collects a W here as I have come to expect from the series. The games are always snappy, responsive, and satisfying for their time, A+ work. They did a great job of making classes feel distinct, reinforcing class fantasy, personality, strengths and weaknesses, especially for party play, while keeping homogenization at bay. The leveling process is where their bizarre choices start to get in the way of the fun, at least in my opinion. D4 has level scaling, such that everything in the world scales up to your level at all times. This is like kind of antithetical to the idea of an RPG. Normally you might have humans tailor the leveling process in a guided manner on purpose. Starter zone, first dungeon, mid-zone, dangerous optional area, etc. Skip ahead for more of a challenge. This boss is hard, you might need to grind a little to beat him, send you back through a starter zone to show how much you've grown. Give personality and power level lore for NPCs and areas. Damn, this dude is high level, etc. Or you could just write an algorithm, I guess, which they chose. I think their idea was you could go anywhere to level, which I think is a minor upside at best, with a lot of downsides. One of the main knock-on effects of this is everything feels the same. Cathedral of a Fallen Angel filled with gothic Iron Maiden mech suits. Story was building them up to be badasses. Nope. Exactly as hard as the wild boars outside. I've been fighting them since level 6. You kill the same boars slower at level 12, by the way, and slower yet at 24 because of scaling. Feels bad. Being able to party with a low-level friend is cool, but you could have done that without full scaling. At max level, I think a type of scaling is actually good, like Terror Zones in D2 or Helltides in this game. They're great, and breathe life into zones you wouldn't go back to at level cap, but as the main leveling process, scaling is weird and bad. I did play a druid, and everyone says they suck before level 70, and they were mostly right, but I have some broader thoughts anyway. Going into Diablo 4, I figured who cares? I'll pay the suck tax if druid is good at max level, right? But now I admit that I was wrong. This isn't Diablo 2, where you blast Fisher until hell, respec Windy for seal popping, and bail runs till 90. Then pick a meme build to chill with because 99 isn't worth the grind. Or retail WoW, where literally nothing matters except max level. The D4 grind to 100 is the whole game, besides one very hard optional last boss, and seasons are their main push, where we'll be starting over every few months. Classes should not feel like Druid or I'm Told Barbarian for 70 levels every single season. It is probably not okay. Level scaling certainly makes this worse, but the real culprit is how bad the generator spender system is before you have enough gear to ignore it completely, which I don't think you ever fully do, depending, especially against one or two monsters. In AoE packs, you get everything. Against one guy, you get nothing. Kinda weird. Look, Diablo 2 chugging potions is not great design either, but at least you can use your skills. You can press your button. Generators feel so bad to press. Maul hits for 2k, and Pulverize hits for 400. 1,000. These numbers have to be closer together. But I'd prefer a redesign entirely, which won't happen, so I'll just think out loud. What if generators were great single target and spenders were AoE? Then fixing your spirit problem with Bisque gear would only gatekeep density clearing, but you'd at least one-shot single mobs. Your generators should one-shot a white mob. It takes like 7 swings or more at level 90, standing still, to kill one normal skeleton in a room of 20. I get that it's an optimization game and you're supposed to want to pimp out your chosen core skill until you can spam it. But trust me, players want to do that anyway. Making generators this miserable is not a necessary incentive. If you're concerned about making basic skills too good so people just build around those and ignore core skills entirely, which is a reasonable concern because D4's resource system is not fun, then just make sure when you buff basics, they don't do AoE damage. Problem solved. Ain't no one trying to play 0 AoE in this game. Maybe for Lilith they are, I don't know. I can only give a druid perspective here, but the resource system gets a fat F until your gear and Paragon allow you to have infinite resources, and then it no longer gets a letter grade at all because it doesn't exist, which is its ideal state. In high density, high keys, if you aren't permanently unstoppable, you will be CC'd to death from full life. When planning a build, I consider unstoppable synonymous with the ability to play the game. I feel like every class should have access to this. Druid and Barb have this, or just about have this with perfect gear. I'm told the others don't. I think they should. The ultimate tier of every class's talent tree feels like the right place for this, since you can only play with one of the 4. Druids have 4 ultimates, and only one makes you unstoppable, so really, we only have 1 ultimate. Whoever made the other 3 was wasting their time, I don't know. Every ultimate for every class should make you unstoppable, because then we could all ignore the stupid spam, and there would be a reason for the other alts to exist and maybe get played. Despite this, there's a lot more min-maxing and alternative builds to make with talent trees, Paragon board, and legendary aspects than I thought there would be, at least as a druid. Pleasantly surprised, since theory crafting is an integral part of ARPGs. Tentative B+ for druid, and from what I hear, sorcerer. For barbarian, it seems like if you aren't spinning, you aren't winning, so maybe lower depending on what class you chose. A class with like only one good build is a code red issue. This sounds like I'm just complaining, and to be clear, I am, but at the end of the day, I'm also an unstoppable power bear, Hulk smashing a third of the screen worth of demons and shockwave autocrits for free. And let's not lose sight of how fun that is. End of the day, Diablo 4 gets a B, maybe B+. It's exceptionally good at what it does well, but I don't know how long the new car smell will stick around, and it's held back by Nightmare Dungeons being pretty lame content, and a mountain of quality of life issues, and yet I can't stop playing it. The rest of this review will be me bitching about stuff and offering suggestions for improvements. Actually, you know what? Hold on. You can't go back and farm story bosses in a Diablo game. It is downgraded to a B. I'm liking Pulverize, but I wanted to try out a different spec or two because I like theory crafting. The problem is, all of those builds are locked behind Tempest's Roar Helmet, which has not dropped for me in 90 levels. Because the devs confirmed Druid is bugged to get Barbarian uniques instead, I've gotten many. And now this hat is like 9 times more rare than it should be. Isn't an ability like this what the Codex of Power is supposed to be for? To not gatekeep basic builds. Tornado and Lightning Storm are not niche meme builds like Staff of the Crone No Spender or Explosive Bulwark that's maybe a bug. If you want to play with 2 of your 5 core skills, you need the rarest helmet in the game to reduce your spirit cost by 75%, because that's how shit spirit is. Then again, this is a bug, so I guess whatever. On the topic of legendary aspects, why are these physical items that take up space? Put your collected aspects in the codex. It's already there. There's already a UI for it. Make captured ones limited quantity, right? If you find one perfect one, you use one perfect one, easy. Then you might not even need the Coda search feature for the inventory and stash, even though those should have been in default as well, but probably they're not there because of console dev or something. Speaking of itemization, it's bloated with filler. There's about 6 phylum of stats that are meaningfully different, and then like 30 that are just plus damage. Damage versus close, versus distant, healthy, elites, injured, immobilized, poisoned, slowed, stunned, damage on a Tuesday, holy shit. They were in a Zoom call with a whiteboard and wrote down every suggestion for possible situations where damage could happen, and literally used every single suggestion for the final game. Even the game knows these are filler, the random crap is additive, the good ones are multiplicative. I'm simplifying this a lot, but long story short, you want vulnerable, crit damage, X damage, and main stat. The other 30 technically exist, but they needed a bunch of affixes to appear on items, so good ones are rare, and this was easier than making them all interesting, I guess. Regardless, there's too many. This kind of sucks, but it doesn't ruin anything. You wouldn't want most stats on your specific character's build anyway, so just get the good items, I guess. Resists don't do anything, but I heard they're fixing that. Also, surprised not to see a transparent tab map like all modern ARPGs have, including Diablo 2 made in 1999. The game's worse for the lack of it. I heard the devs say they don't want people playing with it open all the time. Why? I tend to turn mine on and off as I play D2R. Usually off, flash it on here and there when traveling to exits. Is that not okay? Is that against the law? What do I do in D4? This. The same thing, just way more annoyingly. Is this a console thing? Upper right minimap is too zoomed in, and also we are too zoomed in on our character during normal play. Like 20%. Speaking of quality of life that all of your competitors have, and have had forever, here's where I would ask for a loot filter, but I know Blizzard's history. For 23 years, Diablo players have asked for a loot filter in Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and Diablo Resurrected, and they have looked down on us and whispered no. Some guy named Loot Filter must have stopped Bobby Kotick from sexually harassing someone, and he vowed revenge. I don't know. I don't remember who suggested this, but it's a good compromise, so I will echo it here. What if loot names on the ground had the item level in parentheses? Then I could never pick up anything below 800, and everyone's happy. Also, we need a hierarchy for item affixes as they appear on tooltips. Alphabetical, by bucket, it doesn't matter too much how, just that there is one. The less time spent hovering over a full inventory of stuff, the better, and knowing vulnerable is always at the bottom, or plus skills always at the top, or whatever would be nice. Speaking of loot, mark as junk should instead be mark as keep, because only 1 in 100 items are good, so it just makes more sense that way. Also, please add a sell all button to stores. We sell items in D4, because there are proper gold sinks. We don't salvage anything after level 20. Mats are infinite, which I think is actually a bit of a missed opportunity. It might have been a useful alternative farm, but the ship sailed on that one. This is probably my most I'm old complaint, but I find the mouse cursor easy to lose track of during big combats, and I don't in other games, so there must be some enigmatic graphic design issue going on there. The horse controls suck, but I don't care too much, and I'm sure a lot of other people are complaining about it, so maybe it'll get fixed. I mentioned this in the final grade, but the dungeons are sad. Probably the weakest content. And I get the sense that nightmare ones are supposed to be like the main endgame thing to do, which is doubly concerning. They have the Diablo 3 disease, and I'm sorry a cure hasn't been found over the last 10 years. I don't think they're really dungeons. They're like hallways with a fork or two. They're beautiful. But minus the background art, I'm a train going back and forth on railroad tracks. Find the 3 things, and put them on the 3 other things by backtracking 6 times. Why can't I carry more than 1 at a time? A barbarian can quad-wield 4 swords with 30 suits of armor in his backpack, but 2 rocks is a bridge too far. It's like the quest item tab only exists to mock us. Put them there. Look, I too remember Den of Evil Slay All Monsters, which was the first introductory quest cave in Diablo 2, and actually kind of annoying, even for that. They did not repeat that quest in D2, and for a very good reason. I'm baffled someone suggested putting it in every other dungeon like that could possibly be fun. That person is not to be trusted. A lot of people hate this, so I imagine they might try to do something about it. But if your solution is, well, what if they only have to kill almost all the enemies? Then I hope your air conditioning breaks, because you missed the point. Since dungeons are just 2 or 3 tunnels, forks in the road make backtracking constant. With large area dungeons, there's technically more wrong ways to take, but really it's more like directions. Towards or away from an exit, at least you can curl through areas you haven't been to for an illusion of freedom. I understand this cannot be changed. Hallway dungeons are just what Diablo 4 is, and that's quite disappointing to me. In Diablo 5, can we have real dungeons? If so, I will enjoy that from the nursing home. Nightmare dungeons are pretty weak content. They're essentially Diablo versions of Mythic Plus from WoW, which sucks, because Mythic Plus sucks. Wouldn't it be great if you could do the same dungeon again, except with special modifiers to make it slower and less fun? Not really, no. I will do them because I have to, but I'm not, like, thrilled about it. Hey, what if monsters drain your spirit in this one, so you actually cannot ever press a core skill? How about you...
Watch your profanity.
Everyone's complaining about this, so when Blizzard fixes Nightmare Dungeons, and I think they will try to, I hope they separate target goals. The best XP should never also be the best item drops, or the most item drops, or the best gold farm, or target farm, or mats, even though there's no farm for this in D4 since you get infinite mats without even trying. Find every meaningful farm and divide them between the different farmable activities you made. If one piece of content is the best, or close enough to the best, for most or all player goals, that matter. In an MMO-like game, your whole game shrinks down to only being that one thing. And that's how you get D3, and that game was trash. Because rifts were trash, and that was the only thing you did in that game. Because it was the best for all target goals. And finally, target farming story bosses needs to be a thing in D4. I actually cannot believe that it's not, to be honest. Replaying that kind of content is what endears players to your world and its characters. Not even death can save you from me, right? Sure, maybe they went too far in D2, any bail runners, but that was a different time. We're better now. How about a high chance of uniques from story bosses, but no other loot? Like, I don't know, 10%. Perhaps even Andariel unique from Andariel, Duriel unique from Duriel, etc. Uber Lilith style versions of story bosses that start at level 80 to fill in the no man's land between 80 and 100. If you do this, but it's only for like a cosmetic drop, I hope your air conditioning breaks. Anyway, game's almost really good. Looking forward to Paladin. See ya.